I'm here with Magazine is elated to interview you today. Christiane Hirt, a Canadian icon as an actress. She has won an Ampia for Best Actress for Heart of the Sun, nominated for a Gemini for Skate movie, and has won the Sam Payne Award for Developing Emerging Artists. And I think that is well deserved. Rogues Theatre Company has been everything to the Alberta and BC industry. You guys have trained and supported so many people that it's countless. How do you feel about being a part of a company that has changed the Canadian view for artists here?
It's really I think it's the fulfillment of the dream that Joe and I started out with in 1993 when we met each other. We had a dream. First to create a family, and then to create a creative family, a creative home, where we were really passionate about wanting to share what we knew as trained actors, but also as actors who worked in the industry, like actors who worked, on film sets and on stage. We wanted to really share that experience with others, and in that process build a community. So it's sort of flourished into more than what I thought it would, and I sort of feel like it still has even another life beyond the two studios. I'm not really sure what that is, but yeah, it's a very exciting, very trying at times thing to be a part of, to do, because you're kind of you're creating it as you go along. Like, there is no sort of like, what we've done, I don't think has been really done in this country in a similar way. I think we're the only family-owned acting studio that has two locations, one in Alberta and one here, and we still, figure out how to work it as a family. So it's pretty interesting.
When we were doing your photo shoot with Jordan Gooden, you had mentioned to us that you're not even from Canada. You were born in Switzerland.
Yeah, I was born in Switzerland.
We can see that just with your presence. You have a different aura walking into the room. You're very sophisticated, very calm, you watch everything around you. But you said that you grew up with a family of kind of artists that kind of got you into feeling inspired to want to do art, and then you got into ballet, and that's how it all started. Yeah. Let's share with the audience, like, how is it you got to the level of stardom and recognition, and you're very humble, you're not about media. I can see that when I looked you up a bit, but you have worked with people like Russell Crowe. You have been, put up in the Alberta industry as, an award-winning actress. Looking back on all of that, what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's, I hear this like, it's a long and winding road, which is kind of my life and my creative, I guess my creative road, which has been full of twists and turns and unexpected highs and lows. Yeah, I mean, I've had a really full, very, very full life. I've had amazing opportunities that, I won't say that they were dropped in my lap. I think I worked for every single thing that I have. I sort of learned to be a hard worker from my Swiss parents. I mean, work ethic was huge in my family. So, you worked hard at everything. I worked hard at being a figure skater when I was a figure skater, and then when I couldn't skate anymore, I found acting absolutely. I knew from the first class, my first acting class, I was, I think, just turned 13, maybe 14, I think it was 13, I just knew that that was what I was going to do. I felt like it's cliche, but I felt like I had come home. It was a place where I could use my imagination, and that was always, it was encouraged in my family, but it wasn't really encouraged in the world, and I lived in my imagination. I would write stories all the time, I remember in grade 6, my grade 6 teacher, Mrs. Pettigrew, had, she threw out a word, like lullaby. Write a story about that, and my imagination would get flooded with what that was, and the story that came out of that, and I loved living in that world. And acting was the first place that I really felt like not only was it encouraged, but it was a necessity to the craft. So for me, it was like I sort of plunged into nirvana, finding what I wanted to do, and I just never looked back. So,
your first role, was that right? You were 15 years old when you?
Yeah, I was 15 years old. My first role was the role of Jill Peggy in a film called Glitterdome, which was based on the same title, Glitterdome, by Joseph Wamba, the book. Yeah, and I was really fortunate because I was working with the late beautiful Miss Colleen Dewhurst, James Garner, John Lithgow. Margot Kidder was in that film. There was a lot of great, Alex Diakin was in that film, great Vancouver actor. So I kind of plunged in head first into the deep end, and I loved it. Yeah.
The way you and your daughter, Sophia, your energy, you guys look very similar as well. I can see within the photo shoots, I was like, oh, that look. Yeah, she gets that from her mom. There you go. I know you're very proud of her. You've been her mentor in her career, in her rising career. Like, her and Ice Blue blew everyone out of the water. Mm-hmm. I know she was probably seen before that, but...
You should see what she does in class sometimes.
Yeah. Let's talk about behind the scenes, raising a daughter that is now taking the torch in your business. That must make you feel so proud.
It does. Yeah, it really, really does. I mean, we're not a studio that creates, that's out to create stars. What we do is we provide a creative home for people to come, to explore, to start to find a relationship between their emotional, imaginative palette and the world. Right. So that doesn't sound glamorous. It's a lot of work. It requires a deep devotion to a craft that her dad and I really share. That was the original dream. So for her to really connect with that, not just as an actress, but wanting to do that also as a teacher, that's a whole different thing, because you have to really love people, and you have to really want to create an environment where they can be nourished and where they can flourish. That environment has to be very safe, and at the same time it has to be very challenging. You can't really, people come to you for you to tell them the truth about what you see in terms of their creative potential in the context of the work. And that, to articulate that, is extremely difficult. It takes years and years and years to develop a vocabulary, a vernacular where you can speak in a way that actually reaches a person's soul and get something out of them in that moment that happens before they think about it. And that is, I think, a true, it is a craft in and of itself, So for Sophs to really be passionate about wanting to do that as much as she wants to act, I think it's a beautiful balance for her creatively, because I think what you know, when you're given a gift, it's your duty to give it back, into the world, you know. And not everybody does that. Not everybody wants to do that, and you can't force anyone to do that, you know. But for someone who does want to do it, then, you know, we are certainly really, really proud of her that she wants to share her gifts with others that way.
Let's talk about energy.
Sure.
You know, you got the scarf going. You got the Swiss parents that were, you know, living life to live, not to work to live. Where did you find that within you? When did you first realize, like, emotion, energy is where this all stems from? When did you start using those kind of words?
I don't really, you know, I sort of have this, memory, like, I was not the most talented, gifted, you know, figure skater. Like, I was small, and I had big legs, and I was strong, and I could jump high, and I had some sort of aptitude for grace, but I couldn't do footwork. I was dyslexic. I jumped off on the wrong foot. All my jumps were, you know, I think left rather than right. You know, and I really, really, really struggled. And I had some not very nice coaches along the way. I had some great coaches, and then there were some not very nice coaches. And I was very sort of like lost in that world at times, you know, worked very hard at it. But just didn't really feel like somehow I fit in. And I felt that way, I think, a lot, you know, when I was younger. Like, where do I belong? And when I found acting, it came very naturally. And I was very blessed to have studied with a teacher who studied herself with Sanford Meisner at the Neighborhood Playhouse in 1968 through to 1970. Actually, the year that I was born, to when we actually immigrated to Canada, was when she was in New York studying with Meisner. And so when she was the first to bring his technique to Vancouver, I believe, and that was in very early 80s. And so that whole technique is about working from the truth of yourself and off the truthful behavior of the other person. And that was just something that I kinned with. I instinctively knew what that was. It was something I craved. And so when it was offered and there was a space held for it, I sort of just knew how to do it, you know? Like, yes, I can listen and I can be affected by what I'm hearing, and I can respond out of how I'm being affected very truthfully. I know how to do that. That just feels right and natural to me. And so really that's kind of how, I guess that's how acting started. You know, when I was a skater, I remember I would go to all these competitions, and I'd be like, you know, I'd come in sort of like second to last or somewhere in the middle, but I was never, you know, never anything great. And I remember this one competition, there was an upcoming competition. It was like a regional competition. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to win that competition. I'm just going to do it. And I remember I started using the power of visualization. Nobody taught me this. I was too young to have read about it in any kind of book or anything like that. But I remember every night before I'd go to sleep, I would see myself, I would go through my routine, every step of my routine, and I would see myself do it, and I would feel joy as I did it, and I would feel freedom as I did it, and I would feel that power as I did it. And the competition came up, and I had gotten sick right before I had the flu. And my mom said, you know, maybe we shouldn't compete. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And I had my green socks, my lucky green socks in my bag, and I was like, no, I'm going to win this competition. And I went out, and it was like my body just took over from what my mind kept feeding it, right? That visualization. And my body just did exactly what my mind had visualized for every day or every night for a month before the competition. And I sort of made that connection then as to the power of imagination and the power of visualization. And I wanted to use that somewhere. But it wasn't just skating. I didn't know where to use it until I found acting. And then all of a sudden, the organicness of living moment to moment, married with the power of what you can do when you visualize, became like the elixir for me creatively. And that's what I ended up doing for the rest of my life.
Oh my God. That's amazing. Because a lot of people don't, you know, when you're successful, for sure you're going to list off all the things that you've done and all the people you've worked with. But as Sophia's interview as well, she said it's really within learning who you are and the energy. And knowing that, I think, is what makes somebody stable in life, where they know themselves. So it's like, as actors, a lot of them haven't learned about themselves first. So I would assume that you guys teach a little bit of that in your...
Yeah, you know, there's like this big, huge misconception about acting. You know, acting is about being somebody else. And as much as it is about being other people, like, that takes an incredible amount of empathy, right? It takes an incredible amount of compassion to actually step into someone else's shoes without judgment, without a label, and say, okay, what is your experience on this planet like?
Yeah.
Right? So to be able to do that requires technique, a lot of technique. It requires imagination. But it also, you know, requires the ability to I'll be very blunt, to drop your shit, you know, and to have the empathy and the humility to feel what it is someone else feels. I don't know what else to say about it, you know.
It's something that a lot of people don't talk about, so it's amazing that you are. With teaching people and helping their careers for real, what does that do for how that makes you feel? You know, not so much your wallet. I know you guys probably give everything that you have to making this company. Longevity has been like the word that we're using today. But
this is a legacy studio.
Yeah, you have built your legacy. You're a living legacy, thank God.
Yeah.
But when you guys are not here in 100 years, where do you hope to see Rogues? Like,
I mean, Rogues is sort of, you know, we certainly, I mean, our pedigree in the last 27 years has grown, obviously, you know, as one of the foremost acting centers in Western Canada. But we've taken so much of our inspiration from HB Studio, where, you know, Uta Hagen and Herbert Berghoff started their studio back in the late 40s. Neighborhood Playhouse. You know, these legacy studios, these iconic legacy studios in New York, where they didn't care what was on your resume. You could have been an Oscar-nominated or Oscar-winning actor. What they cared about was the work, and that's why they have the longevity that they have, because they never pandered to the, you know, the credits or the accolades. You'd walk into, you would walk into a studio, and you know, sometimes working with those teachers is kind of almost like working a bit like with a medicine woman or a medicine man, you know, where they see you. They see exactly who you are. They see all your crap. They also see your potential, and they start whittling away. You know, and it's hard, and it's incredibly gratifying. And, you know, you can't come out of an experience like that without being so grateful that there are people on the planet that are willing to tell you the truth, at the same time as really willing to nurture and nourish that creative seed. And the thing that they teach the most is, is to be humble. Like, I was very, very fortunate to study with Carol Rosenfeld. She's master teacher, iconic master teacher from New York, head of the HP studio now since Miss Huggins' passing many, many years ago. And she used to say this thing, in class. She said, you will act when you're meant to act, and the rest of the time live your happy life. It's like, it's not everything, it's a devotion. It's something that we practice all the time. But the way you live your life is your highest art. That's your art form.
And that's what you're remembered for a lot of the time, too.
Mm-hmm.
Of how you affected the people around you, regardless of how big you got. But the accolades help, I'll tell you that.
Sure, yeah, sure, they help, but you can't hang on them.
Yeah, and people who do, that's good. That's a good lesson that you just taught them if they're listening and looking to move forward their career. Everyone, especially within Alberta, knows about Rogues and that you guys make talent make it. But it speaks of the people that come to you and say, hey, I resonate with you, I need you, I want you, what can you help me with? And just from seeing Sophia doing so amazing in film, that's oh my God, okay. They nurture to the point where they're in Alberta, then they have support in BC. And I love that you're giving that opportunity, that you don't have to leave them, because a lot of people leave Alberta to come to BC, vice versa. Mm-hmm. So it's just wonderful that you're there for the long haul and their longevity to keep helping them. So that's what I like about it, is that you are national and you can help anyone who really comes to you guys. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you one more thing, I guess, about what is some of the most memorable sets that you've got to be on as an actress?
Oh, wow. I would say definitely when I did Skate. That was a very memorable set, just because it was so physically grueling. I did I did 75% of my own skating, so I had to train for 3 months before doing the movie. It was a very cool set because it was so active, right? It was like, like they would fashion a dolly track out of hockey blades and a piece of plywood with a guy with a camera on it, another guy pushing this guy with the camera on it down the ice. It was just like, it was a crazy set. It was very innovative. For the moment, I mean, it was beautiful to shoot in Manitoba, in the prairie. It was gorgeous. It was a gorgeous story. It was a period piece story, and working with that crew was just a wonderful experience. Kim Aaron Johnson, who wrote and directed the film, is an extraordinary artist. People should know more about him and the work that he's done in Canada. Obviously, working with Crow was a gift. He's a charming person, extremely charming person, lovely, lovely man, regardless of all of the other rumors. But he's a good guy. I mean, even just some of the indies that I've done, like I think it was called Eyes of a Cowboy. It was this crazy little indie film that I did years and years ago in Cache Creek, and just again, beautiful people, wonderful crew. It's really it's the cast and it's the crew. A lot of it is the crew that just makes a set. It's like this nomadic, community, and it's just this wonderful feeling. Yeah.
I'll ask you another one, even though I said we're going to cut it shorter. Being a woman in film, from the times of being a star, in the 80s, 90s, do you see a difference in the industry changing?
I do. I do see a difference. Some of it very good, some of it not always things that I agree with. I don't consider myself a feminist. I consider myself an artist, a creator, and that to me sort of transcends inner sort of gender bias, because I really want to create that with all of my actors, whether they're, identify as male, female, trans, whatever the case may be. They are an artist, they are a soul. And I think that goes beyond just, the gender. I'm not saying that, women haven't made great strides. They have made great strides. Is there further to go? Oh, yes, but that's going to require, as far as I'm concerned, some really powerful storytellers and some powerful money to get behind those storytellers to make those stories happen, in a meaningful way.
And film does a beautiful way of showing people life and other people's experiences. Mm-hmm. You're also a playwright. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're behind the scenes, you're in front of the scenes, you're helping everybody. It's just like, is there anything that you don't do?
Well, I would say windows, but I just did my windows the other day, so I can't think of anything right now, actually.
I'm very honored to interview you and your family. You guys are a pillar in the Canadian industry of film, and to us that I'm here with. And we will be following the success of you guys and everyone else that you're promoting, and all the theater productions that you guys have done and will do for the future after COVID.
You betcha. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Christiane Hirt is an inspiration to women. So I really hope you all enjoyed this interview and get to see her light.
Thank you.